Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if anyone still sees your beauty? Not just the reflection staring back at you, but the beauty of who you've become over the years. The kind of beauty that isn't measured in smooth skin or youthful curves, but in wisdom, depth, and presence. Here's the truth. There are signs of beauty that most people overlook. Signs that don't always get compliments or likes. Signs that don't stop traffic or spark flirtations, but speak to something far deeper. Because being a beautiful older woman isn't about trying to look 25 again. It's about becoming something far more rare. Someone who carries the kind of grace and strength that only time can give. In fact, some women grow more radiant with age, not in spite of the years, but because of them. The problem is, most of these signs go unnoticed. Society's lens is still blurry when it comes to aging. We're shown filtered youth and retouched smiles. We're told beauty fades, and that if we're not hearing compliments anymore, it must mean we've lost something. But that's not the truth. Some of the most beautiful older women walk through life quietly, carrying decades of love, loss, laughter, and growth in their eyes, while the world rushes past, too distracted to notice. So today, we're going to slow down. We're going to reveal 6 powerful signs that you are, without a doubt, a beautiful older woman, even if no one says it out loud. Signs rooted in real psychology, human behavior, and decades of observation. You'll see how these subtle traits reveal themselves, not in appearance, but in how you carry yourself, how you impact others, and how you live. Because beauty isn't gone. It's just evolved. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which signs are already alive within you. You might recognize them in your past. You might see them growing in your present. Or maybe, just maybe, you'll decide to bring them forward into your future. But to truly understand these signs, we need more than theory. We need real stories. So let me introduce you to 2 women, both over 70, both mothers, both with full lives behind them. Yet only one of them is aging with radiance and dignity, while the other is quietly fading into resentment and loneliness. Their choices reveal everything. Comment number 1 if you're ready to discover what true, timeless beauty really looks like. Let's start with something many people overlook. A quiet presence that fills the room. It's not loud. It doesn't seek the spotlight. It doesn't need approval. But when a woman like that enters the space, people sense her. Something shifts. The energy becomes calm, focused, a little more grounded. You might not even be able to explain why, but you feel it. That's not an accident. It's the result of a lifetime of becoming. Margaret, at 74, has this presence. She doesn't walk fast. She doesn't speak loudly. But there's a stillness in her that makes others slow down. When she walks into a room, people make space, not out of obligation, but out of respect. She carries herself with a kind of quiet dignity, like someone who's seen enough, lived enough, and doesn't need to perform anymore. Her presence is not about what she wears or how she looks. It's about how she is. It's in the way she meets your eyes when you speak, the way she listens without rushing, the way her silence says more than other people's words. That kind of presence is beautiful, not in a dramatic, cinematic way, but in a steady, unmistakable one. The kind that lingers even after she's gone. Now, Linda's presence is different. When she enters a room, she's often focused on how she appears, adjusting her jacket, checking her lipstick, glancing at her reflection in any nearby surface. She wants to be noticed, but not for who she is, for how she looks. There's a tension in her body, like she's bracing for judgment, like she's hoping to measure up to something that no longer matters. And that constant effort makes her invisible in a different way. People feel that energy, the neediness, the insecurity, the silent plea to be validated. It creates distance, not connection. Because true presence doesn't come from being noticed. It comes from knowing you belong. And that kind of beauty can't be painted on. It has to be grown, nurtured, lived into. Researchers in the field of social psychology call this authentic presence. It's the emotional impression someone leaves, not based on their words or looks, but on the quality of their being. People with authentic presence are often described as calming, magnetic, and trustworthy. And here's the key. This kind of presence grows stronger with age, if you let it. The women who develop it are those who've done the work, who've faced their regrets, softened their anger, forgiven where they could, and accepted where they couldn't. They carry peace within them, and that peace becomes visible even in silence. So how do you develop a presence like Margaret's? Start by slowing down, speak less, listen more. Let your breath settle before you enter a room. Let go of the need to be impressive, and focus instead on being real. Because when you are fully present, truly grounded in who you are, beauty follows. The second sign is something almost invisible until you experience it. It's the way she listens. Not just hearing words, but truly listening, with attention, with patience, with her whole self. This kind of listening is rare, and when you find it in an older woman, it's unforgettable, because it makes you feel seen, not judged, not managed, just heard. Margaret has this gift. When someone speaks to her, she leans, not physically, emotionally. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't rush to give advice. She pauses before responding, as if she's holding your words in her hands. People leave her presence feeling lighter, even if nothing was solved. She listens with her eyes, not just her ears. She gives people space to find their words, to reveal what they didn't know they needed to say. That kind of listening is a kind of love, and it's deeply beautiful. Now, Linda used to be a good listener, but somewhere along the way, she started talking more than she listened. Conversations with her often become monologues. If you share a problem, she'll quickly tell you how hers was worse. If you speak about joy, she'll turn it into a story about her past. And the more she does it, the less people open up to her. Because real beauty in conversation isn't about having the best story. It's about offering presence, not performance. Psychologists call this empathetic listening. Studies show that people who feel truly listened to experience lower stress, improved mood, and even physical healing. It's that powerful. And here's the beauty of it. Anyone can learn this, but few practice it. Why? Because true listening requires letting go of your ego. It means making space for someone else's experience, without inserting your own. It requires self-control, humility, and generosity, all signs of an emotionally mature woman. Margaret has cultivated this over time. She used to be quick to give advice, but after losing her husband to illness, she realized how little people need fixing, and how much they need presence. Now her listening is a form of healing. Quiet, invisible, but deeply felt. If you want to radiate this kind of beauty, start by slowing your urge to respond. Count 2 full breaths after someone finishes speaking before you say a word. Let them know, with your silence, that you heard them fully. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful, and it's rare. And the women who do this, They're unforgettable. Now, moving to the third factor that silently affects how beautiful a woman becomes with age: grace in the face of change. Aging is full of changes, some slow, some sudden. Bodies shift, roles dissolve, loved ones pass, dreams evolve. And through all of it, one thing becomes clear. How a woman responds to change reveals more about her beauty than anything else ever could. Margaret knows this intimately. Her life has changed in ways she never planned. She lost her husband just after turning 60. She had to move out of the home they built together. Her knees no longer let her hike the trails she once loved, but she carries herself with grace. That doesn't mean she never cries. It doesn't mean she's always strong. It means she allows herself to feel without becoming bitter. She allows life to move without trying to control it. She's learned the art of release, of letting go without losing herself. There's beauty in that. A deep, quiet kind of beauty that you can't fake. Linda, on the other hand, has resisted every change. She talks often about how things used to be, how she was once beautiful, once desired, once important. And in holding on to the past, she's lost her ability to live fully in the present. Every new wrinkle is a fight. Every new technology, a complaint. Every new phase of life, a source of fear. And here's the truth. Fear ages the spirit more than time ever could. Psychologists call this resistance to change a predictor of emotional distress in later life. People who hold tightly to how things should be often struggle with depression, anxiety, and isolation as they age. But those who practice acceptance, not passivity but acceptance, tend to live longer, with greater peace and fewer regrets. Margaret didn't become graceful overnight. She had to grieve. She had to scream into her pillow. She had to let go of identities that no longer fit. But she did it. Slowly, intentionally. And now, her grace is visible in how she moves, how she speaks, how she meets uncertainty with softness. If you want to embody this kind of beauty, start with a small shift. When something changes, your body, your plans, your relationships, pause before resisting. Ask yourself, what is life asking of me now? And then listen, really listen. There is strength in surrender. And grace is the form that strength takes when it matures. Another habit that often gets ignored is emotional generosity. Not just being kind, not just being polite, but offering your heart, your attention, your warmth, your care, without keeping score. This kind of generosity isn't loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't announce itself, but it's unforgettable. Because the older woman who gives from a full heart, without expectation, without performance, carries a rare and magnetic beauty. Margaret radiates this kind of generosity. Whether it's a handwritten card to a grieving friend, a quiet check-in with a neighbor, or the way she remembers the names of her grandson's classmates, her gestures are small, but deeply felt. She doesn't do it for praise, she does it because it's who she is, and people feel it. That warmth makes her unforgettable. Her love isn't reserved for a few. It spills naturally into the spaces she enters. Not because she's trying to please, but because she's living from abundance, not lack. Now, Linda. Linda gives in a different way. She'll offer help, but often reminds you of it later. She'll listen, but expect you to return the favor quickly. There's a quiet expectation behind her kindness, as if she's always measuring who owes her what. And over time, people notice. The warmth becomes transactional. The connection becomes conditional. And that kind of energy, while understandable, begins to push people away. Research in gerontology shows that emotionally generous older adults tend to report higher life satisfaction, stronger social bonds, and even better physical health. Why? Because generosity strengthens the heart, emotionally and physiologically. It lowers stress hormones. It boosts immune function. It creates meaning. But here's the secret. True emotional generosity requires healing. It means you've worked through enough of your past to give freely in the present. It means your love doesn't come with invisible strings. It means your attention isn't a performance but a presence. Margaret didn't always live this way. She used to keep score. She used to give to feel needed. But over time, she discovered a deeper kind of giving, one rooted in wholeness. And that shifted everything. If you want to grow this kind of beauty, start here. Offer something today with no agenda. A kind word, a loving gesture, a small sacrifice, and let it go. That's where real beauty begins. Not in what you give, but in how you give it. As we move forward, there's a fifth pattern that deserves attention, self-respect, that shows without words. It's not something you announce. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to defend it. People just feel it. It's in how you walk into a room, in how you say no, gently but firmly, in how you dress, not to impress, but to honor yourself. It's the kind of beauty that whispers, "I know who I am." Margaret embodies this without even realizing it. She chooses her clothes carefully, not to follow trends, but because she values feeling dignified in her own skin. She doesn't apologize for taking her time, or for not doing things that drain her spirit. She speaks kindly, but doesn't shrink. She listens, but doesn't allow herself to be dismissed. And the result? People treat her with quiet reverence. Not because she demands it, but because she commands it, through the way she respects herself. Linda, though, struggles here. She often seeks validation by trying to please. She'll say yes when she wants to say no. She'll laugh at things that make her uncomfortable just to avoid conflict. And when she feels overlooked, she grows resentful, not realizing that she's the one who allowed her boundaries to dissolve. That erosion of self-respect isn't always visible, but it's deeply felt. And over time, it affects everything. How people treat you, how you feel in your body, how much joy you allow yourself to experience. Psychologists refer to this as nonverbal self-esteem. It's the subtle, powerful way we communicate our value through posture, tone, expression, and boundaries, without ever needing to explain ourselves. Older women who radiate this kind of self-respect often enjoy stronger relationships, more independence, and a greater sense of peace. Why? Because they've learned, sometimes through painful lessons, that loving others doesn't mean abandoning yourself. Margaret didn't always have this clarity. There were years she stayed quiet when she should have spoken, years she gave too much. But aging gave her something unexpected, permission to stop performing. And in that space, her self-respect bloomed, silently, steadily. If you want to cultivate this kind of beauty, try this. The next time you feel the urge to say yes, when everything inside you says no, pause, breathe, choose yourself gently, and watch how everything begins to shift. Because when you respect yourself, you teach others how to love you. Finally, there's one last habit that might surprise you. A spark of curiosity that never fades. It's easy to assume that curiosity belongs to the young, to those still shaping their lives, chasing newness, discovering firsts. But there is something quietly astonishing about a woman in her 70s or 80s who still wants to learn, still asks questions, still wonders. That curiosity is a flame, and for the women who tend to it, it becomes a source of light. Not just for them, but for everyone around them. Margaret still reads, not because she has to, but because she wants to understand the world.